Okay, so time to build our tic-tac-toe game. As I said before, new things that we'll see in this lesson, we're going to use 2D arrays, we're going to use enums, we will also use the ternary conditional quite a bit just because it's a nice concise way to make decisions in your program. But again, since this program is quite a bit more sophisticated than our earlier ones, I've already typed it up. I'm just going to go through and explain the code instead of typing it in real time, just to make this video, much shorter than it needs to be. So as you see here, we have a board. We have a board class and a tic-tac-toe class. So the board is just going to be, you can think of it as a 3x3 array. It's the game board, and this is where we're going to place our X's and our O's. So as you can see here with our board class, all we've done, really the only object that it contains, is our game board. So it just has this 3x3 matrix, this 3x3 array. And in here we have our constructor. We'll have a function called makeMove that takes in the X and Y position of the board as well as whose turn it is. So this is going to be if it's player 1 or if it's player 2, since it's a two-player game. And then game state, what this is going to do, this is going to see if the game is finished, if somebody won, or if there's a draw, or if the game is still going. So after every time someone makes a move, we're going to check and see if the game is ongoing. And then we're just going to have a simple print statement. All this is going to do is just print out our game board each time so the player who's playing can actually see what's happening. And then we have our enum, and this is how we're going to keep track of who won, if it's X's, O's, if it's a draw, or if the game is still ongoing. So we'll use a switch statement just to kind of cycle through these and see where we're at. So from our board object, we have a tic-tac-toe object. Again, this is going to include the board object since we have a board in it. So this is just going to be a board object right here. So the whole object board that we defined here, it's going to be summed up in this single variable right here. So we're just going to have this one object called the game, and then we're going to have a true-false that represents player 1's turn. So if it's true, it's going to be player 1's turn. If it's false, it'll be player 2's turn. So that's just how we'll keep track very easily of whose turn it is. And then with our constructor, what we will pass it, we're just going to pass it either an X or an O, and that's just going to assign player 1, whether they are the X player or the O player, they get to choose. And then the play function will just basically run everything. It's just going to put everything together. So that's kind of the setup of how our objects look. Let's go ahead and take a look at our individual functions. We'll go ahead and start with board. So this is our game board again. It's just our 3x3 matrix, and when we set up the constructor, we just want to fill that matrix with periods, with dots. So we don't want them to be initialized with anything, but we want something visual on the screen so the player just knows that there's actually a game board there, not that there's nothingness. So we'll create our 3x3 matrix and just fill each position with a dot. We have our print function, which has a 0, 1, 2 here. This is for, it's going to be kind of like a liner that runs across the top of our game board so the user knows that this is position 0, this is position 1, position 2. It just makes it easier for them to know where to put their X or their O. And then we also, in this for loop, we also print out this 0, 1, 2 along the left side as well with this I right here. And moving on, we have our makeMove here. And what this will do is it'll take in the position of the game board that the user wants. So this will be the row, this will be the column that they're going to place their X or their O. And this is going to be if it's player 1's turn or player 2's turn. And so in here we use the ternary conditional. So we say, is it player 1's turn? If it is, we're going to make them X. If not, we're going to make them O. We're going to make the mark that's placed X, or we're going to make the mark that's placed O. And so before we make a mark, we want to see on the game board if there's a period there. If there is, then we can make a mark. But if we check and there's something else other than a period, say there's an X or an O already, we tell the player that they can't make a move there, that square is already taken. And then we return true if they actually did make a move, and false if they didn't. That way, if they make the wrong move, we can just say, like, while this is false, keep trying to make a move. Like, just allow them to keep making moves. Don't switch players until whatever player, player 1 or player 2, makes a legal move on the board. That's why we return true or false. And so game state, this is probably the most complicated of all the functions here. What game state does is it again checks to see whose turn it is, if it's the X player's turn or the O player's turn, and then it goes over the board and it looks to see every combination that you could have won with. So here we have every combination, so this would be like across the top. So if they got the top row here, this would be, looks like the middle row across, bottom row across, and let's see here, this is going to be the very left column, it's going to be the middle column, right column, and these are going to be the diagonals, the bottom two. So we set the mark either to X or O again, and then we just check to see if it won any of these, if X's or O's are in all of these at the same time. So if they are, then we're going to say that X1 if it's X, or we're going to say that O1 if it's O. So that's going to be the result that we return. And so if neither of them won, we would have never gotten to this point here. So this if statement, so if this is false, we skip this section. We don't return X1 or O1. We skip this section. We go down here and we see if the game is a draw. So if they've placed all of their X's and O's and there's still just no clear winner, or if the game is unfinished. So we start off by saying that it's a draw, and then we'll start looking through our 2D array, and as soon as we find a period, so our period indicates that the game's still ongoing, as soon as we find a period in any cell at all in our matrix, on our game board, we'll say that it's not a draw, the game is still ongoing. So we'll set draw to false, and then we return from this function whether it's a draw or if it's unfinished. So that is the board. So that is the board object and all of its functions. Let's go ahead and take a look at the tic-tac-toe Let's go ahead and take a look at the tic-tac-toe object and all of its functions. So again, the tic-tac-toe is going to take in either an X or an O. This is going to be, player 1 is choosing who they are. So they're either going to be the X player or the O player, and that's what this does. And it just keeps track of that through a true or a false. And then our play function is really what ties all those functions in board together. So we have a lot of functions in board. This is just going to make sure that they all kind of go in the order that we want them to be. So we create a player. And so we start off by printing the game board so the user can see where they're starting on each turn. So we're going to do this in a do loop. So it's going to keep going. This do loop is going to keep going while the game state is unfinished. So this do while loop continues to run. The players will continue to play while the game is unfinished. That's what this does right here. And so what's going to happen each turn is we'll print out the board so they can see at the very beginning. We're going to see whose turn it is, if it's player 1, if it's player X or if it's player O. And then we're going to have them make a move, which is going to be itself a do while loop inside here. So this is a nested loop, but what this loop is going to do is it's just going to keep asking the user to make a move until they make a valid move. This way, if they make a bad move, so they try to place it where there's already a letter, then they don't lose their turn. That they get to choose again until they make a valid move. That's what this does. So say enter the row and column number, so it's row space column. Go ahead and place that using our make move function, and our make move, if it's successful, will return true, If it's unsuccessful, it'll return false. So if this is false, keep going. And then all this does is it switches the player. So if true, so if player 1 is set to true, this says, do the opposite of true, make it false. So that's how we're going to keep track if it's player 1 or player 2. And so after we're done with that loop, so the game is finished at this point. Once we get here, we want to print the board one final time so that the players can see how the game finished. And then using the enum, so the game.gameState, this is going to return that enum from before. Then using that enum, we'll put that into a switch statement, and from that we will just output who won the game. And so that's our tic-tac-toe game. Pretty cool. So let's go ahead and just look at how we put it all together in the main function. So main, I have just a run tic-tac-toe. This is just going to simply, kind of do some outside stuff, like saying, do you want to play again? And then it just runs the tic-tac-toe game. So let's see here. So we just say, player 1, do you want to be X or O? And then at the end, it'll say, do you want to play again? So this will just keep running the program, this tic-tac-toe program play. It'll keep running it until they say that they no longer want to play. So this is kind of like a meta function that's kind of outside of the board and the tic-tac-toe. So let's go ahead and compile and run one more time so you can see how this all works. Alright, so our program here, we're going to choose, we're player 1, we're going to choose if we want to be X's or O's, so we'll just say X. And then it prints out our board and it asks us for our first move, so we're going to say 1, 1, we're going to take that middle one. Very good. And next we have player O. Let's just say we're going to take 0, 1. Very nice. And back to player X. This time let's go ahead and do 0, 2. Alright, then we'll go 0, 0. And we're playing hard here. Let's go ahead and say 2, 2. Alright, O's kind of stuck now. Looks like they gonna block us. They'll try blocking us at 2, 0, but they can't because we're gonna win this. So let's go ahead and say 1, 2. Boom! X wins the game. So printed out the final board there. It says we win the game, and it's asking us if we want to play again. So we can hit yes and play again if we want. And we can just keep playing until they hit no. So pretty cool. We did it. We built our very own 2-player video game using C++, using everything we learned all course. Good job. So as I said at the beginning of this course, this is really just an introductory to C++. This is just to get you started in the world of programming. You can build literally anything you can think of as a programmer. It's quite a cool field to be in. You're basically a magician of the things around you. As we get more and more into smart objects, connected devices, stuff like that, you will literally be able to be a magician, a modern day magician. So that's an exciting thing to me, at least. Hopefully it is to you too. If it is, that's a good sign that you should stick with it. So thank you for watching our videos through this course. If you made it this far, congrats, you did it. You can definitely build some things now with C++. If you want to continue down this path, I will put some links on our website at makethingswithcpp.com to other resources that I like that will get you started maybe on a new path to making something new. So congratulations, good job. We'll see you later. Bye-bye. For deeper learning on C++, visit us at makethingswithcpp.com and be sure to like and subscribe.